Let's talk about Fatekeeper. Fatekeeper is essentially a vertical slice for a game that's going to come maybe 2028, 2029. It's an action RPG, first person, a lot like Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Lots of brutal combat, kicking things, traps, especially spike traps that you can kick enemies into. A lot of the same kind of formulas here, although this, I will say, it has a much better RPG realization. First thing off the bat, holy crap. The visuals in this game are stunning, absolutely stunning. And this is such a good representation of the power of Unreal Engine 5. Because not only are the visuals incredible, and I'm sure they're using all of the systems like Lumen and Nanite very effectively, but so is the performance. And I'll drop my PC specs below. It's not low end, but it's definitely not like high end. But it didn't have any problems running this game on the highest graphic settings. So since it's a pretty gory game, I'll save that for later so I don't get flagged. But let's talk about the visuals first off. This game is unbelievable. There's something here about the scale of these mountains that I have never felt or seen before. Like you could not tell me that this isn't actually miles and miles high and miles away. Like it looks amazing. One of the reviews that I saw said that this game looks like Skyrim felt like when we were younger, and I kind of agree. Like that sense of scale and awe that Skyrim had when you played it for the first time, this surpasses that like crazy. Granted, you can't go and walk to the top of that mountain, but just seeing it there is incredible. And the way that they got the atmosphere to interfere and this like fall off and the fog and the mist and all this stuff in the air, it just feels huge. And on that, the set pieces of this game are beautiful, dark fantasy, high fantasy stuff. It's just incredible. And I had such a great time just walking around the little arenas and the archways that you can walk under and the ruins and all this stuff and just existing in that world. So just for a second, just put your headphones on and tune in and listen and just exist in the visuals of this game. Now, I went into this game not knowing much about it. I just knew that it was very short. It was very much in early access. And because of that, people didn't really like that it was so short. But essentially what this game is a vertical slice. So you have as much of the systems running as you possibly can, visuals for the UI, but especially the graphics themselves and the programming for the enemy AI and weapons and how combat works and all that stuff. You do all of this, which is just like a single vertical slice of the game. You might make this either for the producers, and so you can show them a very, very high level proof of concept, or you might show it to investors to get money. And so that's kind of what they're doing here with the early access stuff is like, we're the investors. So for $10 to get this is, I had a great time with it, and it took me about 3 hours to get through. On the visuals, it looks like they might be using a lot of Quixel Megascans, which are these really high resolution, real photo scans of everything, rocks, trees, the cliff faces over here, and the rocks and the leaves and all this stuff. This is all photogrammetry or photo scans. And that paired with, I'm sure they're using the Nanite system, just looks amazing. Another system being used amazingly well here is the Lumen lighting system, which is Unreal Engine 5's real-time ray tracing, lighting, and global illumination. And the cool thing about it that I noticed messing around was that your character actually has a physical body in the world, which casts this shadow, but it also reflects light back onto the environment too. So this little dark crevice here in the cliffside, as I get closer to it, my armor reflects light back onto the rock face. Notice it's dark there, and then as I walk closer, it actually brightens up this rock face, which is crazy. And that's just the light interacting with my character body and being splashed back onto the world. And it's just a crazy level of immersion that I just never even thought about. But as I was walking past a lot of these things, and then later in the fights and stuff, especially around like columns of stone and brick. So you'll notice that the light changes very slightly as your character gets closer to it. And that doesn't happen here in a place that has a lot of occlusion. So you notice it gets darker because my body is blocking all of this ambient light that's pouring in through the opening of the cave here. And that's unbelievable. Like, that's so cool. I just can't get over that. So one complaint I did see a little bit about was the combat of the game. It didn't feel as crunchy as it could have been or should have been. I actually had a really good time with it. I felt like it had quite a lot of weight, especially when you're hitting enemies. The animation feels really good. And as you spec more into like attack speed, your weapons swing faster and it's a lot easier to control the fights. So one thing I hope that they do in the full version of the game is you play as a druid. That's just a character. For myself, I don't like druid characters. I've never played them in any RPGs or MMOs or anything like that. I usually like to play a smaller build character that's got like short swords and a bow to do a little bit more like guerrilla style attacking and running around in movement. That's how I like to fight in RPGs. And you can't really do that here in this game. To a degree you can. And it's just something that I hope they implement when the full game releases in a couple years, is they actually have different characters you can play from, or at least this one guy, but you can change his class. The skill tree looks pretty interesting. It looks a lot like Path of Exile, where it's got these sprawling branches and everything, and you can kind of start from one side of this and then work your way around and meet up in other areas. It's laid out pretty simple. You have magic on the left side, alchemy and utility down below. On the right side, it's all weapon damage and attack speed. And then at the top, it's all constitution style things like health and stamina. So my first playthrough, I spec'd all attack speed. And that felt a lot better once I got to like level 10 and I had a bunch of points of attack speed. The weapons felt a lot more responsive, and therefore the combat felt a lot heavier and impactful. We'll see what happens in the future, but the fact that they do call this melee damage gives me hope that they'll have some sort of range something. Like, I'd love to be able to have a bow and more movement speed options. That'd be really cool. One thing that would also be nice to see is the further you go on into the game, you're collecting a bunch of different alchemical items. And the alchemy is great. It's used for crafting potions and oils. And I like the crafting system. It needs 3 ingredients, and then based on the type of concoction you're making, a potion or a vial, it changes the properties of that concoction. So if it's a potion, you're going to drink it, so you'll get the effects from whatever you make. So some of these ingredients have negative effects, like they'll actually do damage to you, but if you brew it as a vial, you can use it as an oil coating for your weapon. I think that's pretty cool, that dynamicism there, which means that you can have any 3 alchemical ingredients and then get some sort of effect out of it. I think there's a lot of customization there, which is really cool. And I had a lot of fun planning out how I was going to get through the next zones by planning how many potions I was going to have or use and how many vials I was going to have or use. However, there is a lot of these ingredients around, so it is pretty easy to really stock up on all of your consumables. And since there's not a huge variety of weapons so far, I think they would benefit from some sort of Diablo-style crafting system. You'd have other items that you could pick up that are specifically for crafting new weapons, runes you can slot into these weapons, and things like that. And then leave it a lot up to RNG, so you can spend through these pickup items and then finally find a sword that you like and then socket a rune in it and change the magical properties of it. I think that'd be pretty cool. It'd also bring out some replayability too, where you'd want to redo a section of the map so you can go back there, do the fights, get the XP, and grind a little bit for items and things like that. Because there's a lot of space for it. Since you can carry 2 main weapons, you can have a helm, the armor you put on, a necklace, and you can actually have up to 8 rings. So finding bits of gold and gems that you can use to make jewelry, I think would be pretty cool. And because other than that, you're going to have a very linear, straightforward game, and that's kind of what I didn't like about Dark Messiah. So these are kind of just my gripes with this genre of game in general. This is just me interjecting what I think would be a lot more fun and playable. But I don't want to talk about it too much. For $10, you should just go and play this game. It's a fun few hours, and it's so great to be able to run around for a couple hours in such an incredible demonstration of the power of Unreal Engine 5. As always, please leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And keep an eye out for more videos on whatever. See ya.